Hello, sociology class. Today is day one, part one of the summer sociology course. So this course contains all the same content, all the same stuff as the regular sociology course at Bishop McGuinness, but it is condensed. Instead of a traditional fall or spring semester class, it is crunched real tight in a summer course. Same stuff, same time, it's just much faster. So that being said, there's going to be quite a bit to cover in a short amount of time. There's a few other sort of changes. Same content, but the unit structure is a little bit different. There are 5 units, and each day, it's 2 weeks, which means 10 total days, Monday to Friday twice. And each day is split into part 1 and part 2 to make, so there's 20 parts, kind of to make it a little bit more manageable with time. So each part of the 20 parts will require something to be turned in. There's actually several different projects for this class, including one for most units, I think. Well, no, 3 of the units have a project. And at the end of each unit, there'll be a quiz. So every 2 days, there's going to be a quiz. At the end of the entire class, there will be a final. The 5th unit, which is the final unit, is sociological research, and for that you will be making a survey. With the survey, you're going to be doing a project where you'll actually be giving a survey to 20 different people and creating a poster and creating some write-ups and statistical analysis on your results for that survey. So a lot to do. But the first unit that we're starting with today is persuasion. Let me back up a little bit. I teach psychology and sociology at Bishop McGuinness. The difference between psychology and sociology is the study of one individual person. So psychology would be the study of a person's brain, the anatomy of a person's brain, the cerebellum, the cerebrum, the cerebral cortex, corpus callosum, all the stuff in your brain. The brain cells. It would be the disorders within psychology, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, all that stuff. It would be how a person learns, how a person ages. It would be all that kind of thing, but within an individual person, within one person. Sociology and social psychology are anything having to do with multiple people. So all the units, all the content we're going to do in this class has to do with groups of people, how they interact. And so unit 1, we do persuasion, which is if you're trying to convince someone else to do something that's multiple people, then how can you best do that? And what are the laws that govern persuasion? And then one of the units is about conformity. So why do other people do what they see other people doing? Norms. We're going to do one on research, one on inequality, prejudice, racism, all that. Really anything that has multiple people that are involved. That's sociology. So start off with unit 1. Unit 1 is persuasion. And part 1, we're just kind of going to be talking about it. And again, like I said, there are 20 parts to this, 10 days, but 20 parts. Each day has 2 parts. And the first part of today is we're going to be talking about a theory that was put forward by 2 different guys about persuasion. So there's these 2 guys, and their names are Petty and Cacioppo. In the 1980s, in the early 1980s, and they came up with a model of persuasion. They called it the Elaboration likelihood model. The Elaboration likelihood model. And that said that kind of the oversimplified version is we think about, and then I'll go back. We think about arguments, or anytime we think about anything really, we think about it on one of 2 different ways. Either the central route of persuasion or the peripheral route of persuasion. And the more likely you are to elaborate, to use their words, you're more likely to use the central route of persuasion. Those words don't mean anything to you yet, though. But the central route of persuasion is mostly facts, and the peripheral route of persuasion is mostly emotional arguments. They both work kind of in different ways. But if you're trying to sell something like, let's say you're trying to sell a car, you could use the central route of persuasion to try and sell that car, or you could use the peripheral route of persuasion. For an example, so what I just did is I just opened up a tab on my computer and I Googled the word car. In Google Images, this is one of the first images that popped up, so we're using it. It looks like this is an Acura, just based on the logo here, and if there's a number of ways you could try and sell this car using either central or peripheral route of persuasion. If you say this car has a 5-star crash test safety rating, that would be a fact about the car. So that would be using the central route of persuasion. If you say it's white, that's a fact, central route of persuasion. If you say it has, I'm not a car person. If you say it has leather seats, central route of persuasion. If you say it costs $45,000, it probably costs, I don't know how much cars cost. This is a bad example for me to use as a non-car person, but these would all be central route of persuasion things. Peripheral route of persuasion is all the other stuff. So there's a lot of things about this car right now that aren't actually facts about the car. And I'll let you try and think, is there anything in this picture that makes the car appealing that actually has nothing to do with the car? And one of the things I can see is that it's on a bridge. First of all, it's very clean, and so it has this clean, crisp appearance. But mostly in this picture, it's that there's this river going around it. It looks like they're on an adventure. So, which kind of unconsciously makes you think, if I buy this car, I also will get to go on adventures and have fun. This car just looks fun because it's over a bridge on a stream. And so you kind of associate those two things together. That's peripheral. Here's another advertisement. In the previous one with the car, it wasn't actually an advertisement, it was just a picture of a car. But there's a lot of facts that can be presented about that car, like it has leather seats. This is the horsepower of the engine. This is the fuel economy of the car. One of my favorite kind of ads is perfume ads, because there's almost nothing that you can say that is central about a perfume ad. So because you can't really say what it smells like, you almost have to go entirely peripheral. So this one's a great ad. I just typed in perfume ad, and we got Brad Pitt here. So it's Chanel No. 5. Perfume, I guess, or cologne. I don't know what exactly it is, but it's some sort of perfume, and it's got Brad Pitt. So we don't even know what it smells like. We really know no facts about it except that it is made by Chanel. That's really it. That's the only fact that's presented. But there's a lot of peripheral stuff going on. First of all, well, I'll let you. What do you in this ad? What's going on that has nothing to do with the perfume that still makes you want to buy the perfume? There's a few different things. One is the perfume is in color. Everything else is in black and white, which kind of makes you focus on the perfume, and it just makes the perfume really pop, and it makes the perfume just seem more attractive. Also, we have Brad Pitt. He's an attractive guy. You can't say he's not an attractive guy. And he's looking at this perfume. It kind of makes you unconsciously think, if I buy this perfume, I also will be attractive. And of course, that's kind of silly, but that's what they're trying to do. There are 3 differences between central and peripheral persuasion. And the first one we already talked about is central is mostly fact-based arguments, and peripheral is emotional arguments. It's all the other stuff that's not actually facts about the product. Second is that central, in order for you to use central, and this is kind of the whole foundation of the elaboration likelihood model, is that in order for central to work, you have to actually care about the argument. So if you're trying to convince someone to vote for somebody else, it's much easier to use facts if they actually care about politics. Peripheral works regardless of if you care about the topic or not. So for example, in my sociology class, when I have an actual class full of people, I usually, I'll say, I'll have them raise their hands. I'll say, how many of you actually care about politics? And usually in a class full of 20 people, there'll be 2 or 3 people that raise their hand. And with those people, you can usually with people that actually care, it's much easier to use facts to try and convince someone. You can say things like, you should vote for this person in the next election because of their voting record, or because of this fact about the person. The cool thing about peripheral persuasion is you don't even have to care. So if you're trying to convince someone to buy a car and they're not a car person, peripheral still works. So if you have an ad with a car and the car is driving on the beach, that subconscious thinking of like, ooh, I want that car, because I think about the beach when I think about that car. That still works even if you don't care about cars. If you're trying to convince someone, or if you're trying to get someone to like your same sports team that you like, if that's a person that cares about sports, you can make a factual argument. You can say the Dallas Cowboys are the greatest football team because of these statistics about the team or whatever. But if they don't care about football, that's not really going to work. But peripheral arguments will still work. So things like the players being more likable, more friendly, if you're born there, these kind of like outside things that aren't actually facts about the football team. And third is that central, if you can use central tends to last longer. And peripheral does not last as long if you can use it. So to recap, the elaboration likelihood model, starting off Unit 1 of Persuasion, is these two guys in the 1980s. They came up with the elaboration likelihood model, which is you kind of think about arguments on a scale of central to peripheral. The more likely you are to actually care about the argument and be interested in the argument, the more likely you are to use the central route of persuasion, which is facts. If you don't care about it, you can use peripheral, but it's a little bit harder to use the central route of persuasion. We're going to look at two campaign ads, and I'm just going back in time a little bit because regardless of who you like, now politically, it's just a weird time. So we're going to go back a few years back when it was Obama versus Romney, which was just a much more normal, traditional campaign season. So we're going to watch one of each of Obama and Mitt Romney's ads running for president of the United States. So let's start with Obama. But when we watch this, we're going to watch this 2-minute ad of Obama. And as we're watching it, try and think of what is being said that is central. So what is being said that is actually facts in this, and what's being done that is peripheral. What's being done that makes you like Obama and want to vote for Obama, but has nothing to do with facts. And think about that as we're going, because it's always a little bit of both. I don't care if you're trying to sell a car, if you're trying to sell perfume, if you're trying to sell toothpaste, or if you're trying to run for political office. You use central and you use peripheral. You always use both. If you only use one, I don't even know how that's possible, but here we go. So here's Obama running for president, and think about what is being said that is factual versus peripheral. Here we go.
During the last weeks of this campaign, there will be debates, speeches, and more ads. But if I could sit down with you in your living room or around the kitchen table, here's what I'd say. When I took office, we were losing nearly 800,000 jobs a month, and we're mired in a rut. Today, I believe that as a nation, we are moving forward again. But we have much more to do to get folks back to work and make the middle class secure again. Now, Governor Romney believes that with even bigger tax cuts for the wealthy and fewer regulations on Wall Street, all of us will prosper. In other words, he doubled down on the same trickle-down policies that led to the crisis in the first place. So what's my plan? First, we create 1 million new manufacturing jobs and help businesses double their exports. Give tax breaks to companies that invest in America, not that ship jobs overseas. Second, we cut our oil imports in half and produce more American-made energy. Oil, clean coal, natural gas, and new resources like wind, solar, and biofuels, all while doubling the fuel efficiency of cars and trucks. Third, we ensure that we maintain the best workforce in the world by preparing 100,000 additional math and science teachers, training 2 million Americans with the job skills they need at our community colleges, cutting the growth of tuition in half, and expanding student aid so more Americans can afford it. Fourth, a balanced plan to reduce our deficit by $4 trillion over the next decade. On top of the trillion in spending we've already cut, I'd ask the wealthy to pay a little more. And as we end the war in Afghanistan, let's apply half the savings to pay down our debt and use the rest for some nation building right here at home. It's time for a new economic patriotism, rooted in the belief that growing our economy begins with a strong, thriving middle class. Read my plan, compare it to Governor Romney's, and decide for yourself. Thanks for listening. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
All right, so let's talk about it. First of all, I want you to think to yourself, what did you see in this that was central, and what did you see in this that was peripheral? Because there's actually quite a bit of both of those. As far as political ads go, this one actually had quite a bit of central in it. He said a lot of facts, a lot of actual numbers and facts in this commercial, but there were also a lot of peripheral things as well. So even without the sound going, even without the video going, there's already several things peripheral that you can notice. And the first is that he is in focus, and the room behind him is out of focus, and that is done on purpose, and it is just kind of tries to tie you emotionally to him. He's the focus, everything else is kind of blurry, just kind of a neat little effect, but it's an emotional tactic. Another thing is he's an attractive guy, so attractiveness is a peripheral route of persuasion thing. The more attractive you are, the more persuasive you are, but it has nothing to do with actual facts. It's just that's that. Another thing is he's wearing an American flag lapel pin. So that's done to emotionally, makes him seem more patriotic. He's wearing a nice, crisp suit. All these things have nothing to do with Obama's politics or policies, anything like that, but it does make people more likely to vote for him. It's all the emotional stuff, all the other stuff. And once we start playing the video, you'll notice a couple other things.
In the last weeks of this campaign, there will be debates, speeches, and more ads. But if I could sit down with you in your living room or around the kitchen table,
his voice, he's just talking like he would talk to anybody. So he seems like just a friendly guy. He's very relatable. That's a peripheral route of persuasion. Also, listen to the music that's being played. The music, it's very uplifting. It just makes you feel inspired.
Here's what I'd say. When I took office, we were losing nearly 800,000 jobs a month, and we're mired in Iraq. Today, I believe that as a we are moving.
So you can see the camera, you can barely notice it, but the camera is starting to pan in very slowly. You don't really know what's happening, but you feel connected. Feel connected to Obama. Slowly panning closer to his face.
All of us will prosper. In other words, he doubled down on the same trickle-down policies that led to the crisis in the first place. So what's my plan? First, we create 1 million new manufacturing.
All right, so here's a little bit of central. He's saying his plan is to create 1 million manufacturing jobs, but it's paired with some more peripheral. So in this case, and it's what a lot of political ads do, is that it has a lot of different groups of people. So you have some people in factories. It makes it seem like the politician is in favor of helping the common man. In this case, there's factory workers. One thing politicians often do is show old people in nursing homes. They kind of want to hit on every group of people that they can.
Jobs. And help businesses double their exports. Give tax breaks to companies that invest in America, not that ship jobs overseas. Second, we cut our oil imports in half and produce more American-made energy.
More facts. There's him posing with oil, trying to get the oil groups. All peripheral.
Clean coal, natural gas, and new resources like wind, solar, and biofuels, all while doubling the fuel efficiency of cars and trucks. Third, we ensure that we maintain the best workforce in the world by preparing 100,000 additional math and science teachers.
Teachers is a good one. Posing with teachers to make him seem more relatable, but a lot of peripheral, a lot of central, like almost every ad. So here I'm going to play an ad for Mitt Romney. Well, this one's only 30 seconds long. But same thing. So we're going to look for central and peripheral routes of persuasion. So listen to this commercial and see what is being said that is actually facts and what's being done that is emotional in this advertisement. So here we go.
Most Americans believe we're heading in the wrong direction. Higher deficits, chronic unemployment, a president who admits he can't work with Congress.
You can't change Washington from the inside.
But he says he's only had 4 years. That's all Mitt Romney needed. He turned Massachusetts around, cut unemployment, turned the deficit he inherited into a rainy day fund, all with an 85% Democratic legislature. Some can't live up to their promises. Others find a way.
I'm Mitt Romney, and I approve this message.
I love this commercial. It is different. It takes some different approaches than the Obama commercial, but you can see it does a lot of the same stuff. But first of all, I want you to think, what in this ad is factual? Were there any facts that were presented? And yeah, there were facts that were presented, a few of them. We're going to kind of rewatch it and talk about it, but there were several facts that were presented. And was there anything peripheral? And of course, there was also peripheral. Like every ad, a little bit of central, a little bit of facts, a little bit of emotional stuff in the background to try and persuade you. So here we go. Let's play it.
Americans believe we're heading in the wrong direction.
Uh-oh.
Higher deficits,
Uh-oh.
chronic unemployment,
Uh-oh.
a president who admits he can't work with Congress.
Uh-oh. So the first thing, there's several, they kind of take a different route because it's trying to negatively portray the current president, which is Obama. And in this case, this is all using peripheral persuasion. It's showing, it has kind of ominous music, scary music.
Chronic unemployment, a president.
Big scary numbers, the national debt that's rising at a fast pace. And then it has Obama that's looking sad. It's not a very good picture of Obama. And it's just all trying to make you emotionally feel like Obama's not a good president. So here we go.
Who admits he can't work with Congress.
You can't change Washington from the inside.
But he says he's only had 4
And then here's Obama walking away, which is just kind of another emotional thing, like he's walking away from you or from America.
years. That's all Mitt Romney needed. He turned Massachusetts around, cut.
And then there's the white flash, and then all of a sudden the tone of the ad changes into this very positive thing, which is a traditional ad, and shows Romney, again, interacting with all sorts of different groups of people. He's the common man. He's just shaking hands with people.
Unemployment turned the deficit he inherited into a rainy day fund.
And also they're saying a lot of facts. So here's where we get a lot more of the central stuff.
All with an 85% Democrat.
So there's a fact. He said he did all this with a mostly Democrat legislature, and he's a Republican, so he was able to work with the other side. He's able to make compromises, is what he's saying.
Democratic legislature. Some can't live up to their promises. Others find a way.
There's with the American flag in the background, so it makes you feel like he's patriotic, this positive association. But this is the end of part 1 of day 1, and to finish this up, we're just going to have some questions about the elaboration likelihood model. And then part 2, we're going to do a little magazine assignment, we'll talk about it in part 2. So part 1, you'll have a Google form asking you some questions about the central and peripheral routes of persuasion.